Welcome to Home Field Trivia, Miami Dolphins quiz, fin or fiction. Like, subscribe, and comment for more content. This will be 30 questions. The Miami Dolphins completed the NFL's only perfect season in 1972. True or false? That is true. Dan Marino holds the NFL record for most career passing yards. That is false. The Dolphins played their home games at Hard Rock Stadium. That is true. The Dolphins have won 2 Super Bowls. That is true. The Dolphins team colors are aqua, orange, and white, as you can see from the logo. That is true. The Dolphins were founded in 1966. That is true. The Dolphins have never had a 14-win regular season. True or false? That is false. Don Shula coached the Dolphins to their perfect season. That is true. The Dolphins have never won an AFC championship without winning the Super Bowl. True or false? That is true. Mark Clayton was a Hall of Fame wide receiver for the Dolphins. True or false? That is false. The Dolphins have had multiple MVP quarterbacks. That is true. The Dolphins' mascot is named TD. That is true. The Dolphins have never lost a playoff game at home. False. The Dolphins were part of the AFL before the merger. That is true. The Dolphins have had a rivalry with the New England Patriots since the 1970s. That is true. The Dolphins have retired Dan Marino's number 13. That is true. The Dolphins have never had a kicker lead the league in scoring. True or false? That is false. The Dolphins have never played in London. False. The Dolphins' defense was nicknamed the No-Name Defense. And the correct answer is true. The Dolphins' all-time leading rusher is Larry Zonka. And that is true. The Dolphins have never beaten the Steelers in the playoffs. That is false. Chad Pennington was a Dolphins quarterback. That is true. The Dolphins' original owner was Joe Robbie. That is true. The Dolphins have won the AFC East Division more than 10 times. True or false? That is true. The Dolphins once drafted a Heisman Trophy winner in the first round. That is true. The Dolphins have had a player win Defensive Player of the Year. That is false. The Dolphins have never had a losing season. True or false? That is false. The Dolphins Stadium is located in Miami Gardens, Florida. That is true. The Dolphins team mascot is a dolphin named Flipper. That is false. The Dolphins have appeared in 5 Super Bowls. That is true. Thank you for joining Home Field Trivia for our Dolphins True or False quiz. Like, subscribe, and comment for more content.